Hello and welcome. My name is UnrivaledSkyrim. This is going to be part 3 to my historical battle for Alexander's Balkan campaign. And this is part 3, the fall of Thebes. So last part I had showed the siege of Pelium and his exploits in Illyria, but taking off where I left off from my last video, while Alexander was campaigning in Illyria, the Thebans once again revolted, having been persuaded by the fleeing exiles who had claimed that Alexander had perished in battle. Yet within 13 days, and with great speed, the Macedonian army had marched down from the north 250 miles into Boeotia, but the Thebans still believed Alexander to be dead. So in December 335 BC, Alexander laid siege to the city of Thebes. In former struggles, Philip II, Alexander's father, had conquered the city and had left a Macedonian garrison there in the citadel, which was called Cadamea. Within the city, the officers were slain and the garrison was besieged by the rebels, and eventually defeated. So Alexander's first action was to surround the city of Thebes, but he did not take immediate action towards assaulting the walls. He requested those responsible for the revolt and were promised that they would be pardoned. Instead of accepting his terms, the Thebans demanded Alexander to surrender Philotas, the son of his greatest general, Parmenio, and to surrender Antipater, Alexander's chief supporter and patron with the noble class. Alexander refused. The Thebans chose to shut themselves up in their city and prepared to defend themselves to the last extremity. So Alexander advanced, passing round the city towards the southern side, to establish his headquarters so as to cut off communications with Athens and the southern cities. He invested all around the place with pickets and posts. Then he prepared for the eventual assault. The Macedonians numbered around 30,000 footmen with about 3,000 heavy cavalry, while the Thebans numbered around 36,000 themselves. Soon he was ready after the Thebans' supply line was cut off and a little time spent on constructing engines to breach the walls. Thebans was carried by assault, and Alexander didn't wait for the operations of an elongated siege. He saw a favorable opportunity and burst over the outer line of fortifications which defended the city.
Today in our choice of enemies. When we are done here today, the survivors will pale every time they hear Greek spoken. The few foes who live through this day will suffer afresh all the horrors that we will inflict. Now, to the walls! sure of victory today. I have consulted oracles and witnessed omens, and through them I know the gods have given me brave men to lead into battle. Now, forwards! Victory awaits!
with great losses, but it was a triumphant success in the end. The Thebans were driven back toward the inner wall, crowding the gates in terrible confusion. The Macedonians pursued them, filling the gate with even more men, making it impossible to close the gates. Now the Macedonians were in full possession of the defenseless homes, and cries of horror and despair echoed throughout the city. The sacking of the city carried on for a long while, until order was restored and the army returned to their posts. Alexander thus began to decide what he should do with the defeated Thebans. He chose to destroy the city, to make once and for all an example of the consequences of rebellion against him. The Thebans had chosen to betray his rule. Therefore, to his judgment, they being traitors, he determined that the penalty should be destruction. He pardoned the very few inhabitants that took no part of the rebellion, but as for the traitors, they had been either slain in battle or turned to slavery with the city utterly destroyed. The number sold was about 30,000, with 6,000 slain in the assault and storming of the city. Thus, the fall of Thebes stood as a testament to all of Greece, what was at stake if they were to show any sort of open resistance against their Macedonian leader. The demise of Thebes and their inhabitants shot out like a thunderbolt to the rest of the Hellenic world. Soon, all symptoms of disaffection against Alexander were subdued, and did not revive again. All of Greece was impressed with a new admiration for Alexander's character after these events. For the most part, Greece was now ready to accept Alexander and the Macedonians as their true leaders, to take the Greeks and their forces into Asia against the mighty Persian Empire. So from Thebes, Alexander proceeded southward to firmly establish his influence and ascendancy in the country of the Greeks. Soon afterwards he returned to Macedon, where he celebrated his successful campaigns with a spectacle of games, live shows, and mass sacrifices to the gods. He was now ready to turn his attention towards the long-projected plan of the expedition into Asia. So there you all have it. That's Alexander's Balkan campaign in a nutshell. To sum it all up, I guess, he really had to deal with revolts after the death of his father. He immediately took action. He knew that if the Greeks were to cross into Asia and the Macedonians were to lead them into Asia, that he would have to quell any sort of revolt at home in Greece before they went to cross the Hellespont into Asia Minor, then to take on Darius III and defeat the mighty Persian Empire. So I chose to do Alexander's Balkan campaign because I believe no one really focuses on that, and I find it really intriguing and interesting because it's the first instance of him, Alexander, totally in control immediately after his father's death, tragic death, and thanks for watching. I'm gonna be doing more historical videos to come out. If you check them out, I have a Dardanian battle and I have the Battle of Pharsalus House, so please check those out. In the future, I have planned, I'm going to do the Battle of Connexa between Cyrus the Younger versus Artaxerxes, his brother. That should be interesting, and I do have the Battle of Leuctra coming out, which was between the Thebans and the Spartans. So please check those two out once they come out, and as always, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you guys later. Peace.